Alright guys, Carl Schoof here from Snorkel.tv, and here is part 2 of how to build a sticky nav. And a sticky nav is one where we can click on buttons, they will get highlighted, and they will stay highlighted. When we click on a subsequent button, they will deselect the previous button, and the new button, called current nav, will stay lit. In a previous introductory video, we went over all the code that we have in our start file so far. And we talked all about mouse children and the current nav over, nav out, and nav click event listeners that we have set up. So if the concept of mouse children is a little bit foreign to you, please watch part 1. Right now our movie as is tells us the names of the movie clips that we're rolling over when we roll over the navigation. Alright guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy part 2. Now let's look at how we're going to get our roll over, roll out, and click color changes in there. Well, of course we're going to use Tween Light or Tween Max for this. And let's just go into nav over real quick. And if you don't know about using the green sock tweening class, just do a search of my site for a green sock and you'll come up with plenty, or visit greensock.com. Here, Tween Max is going to tell each nav item that its dot is going to take 5 seconds to change its color to some bright blue color. We'll just take a little look at that, and you'll see now that when I roll over, the dots get brighter. Alright, it's a very quick tween to this brighter blue. Now, we don't have anything so that when we roll off, they go back to their normal color, so let's do that as well. And I'm just going to go back to the actions, and I'm going to paste the same thing in my nav out listener, but instead of passing in a tint color, I'm just going to say no tint. So it's just going to go back to the normal color. So you'll see now that I roll over, it turns bright blue. I roll off, it turns dark blue. And what's very important here is that as soon as I roll over the background, you'll notice that it's telling that dot to change color. Because when we roll over, I know that this is nav2MC, and then I'm telling its dot to change the color. And when I roll off, I'm telling nav2's dot to change color. Alright, I said the same thing twice. So let's close this. And now we also want to make each button clickable. So each item inside of that nav is also going to change color. And we're going to change to an orange color. So let me just change this value real quick, FF6600. And now when we test, you'll see that I can roll over, roll out, and I can also click. And it's going to change orange. Well, what happened there? I clicked, right? That worked, changed orange. But when I rolled off of here, it went back to blue. So these buttons here aren't very sticky. I roll out, turns blue. Click, roll out, turns blue. So I need a way of telling my movie, hey, once I click on an item, don't change its color on rollover. Alright, so in order to do this, I need to know what button I don't want to have change color on rollout. So we're going to use this variable here called current nav, and that's going to be a variable that refers to a movie clip that is going to be the most recently clicked movie clip. So on my nav click event, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Current nav equals nav item. Remember, I'm already figuring out what nav item is. It is the nav MC that got clicked. All right. Now that I know what the nav item is, I need to also say, hey, on the nav out function, if this is in fact the current nav that you're rolling out of, don't change my color back. So the way we're going to do this is with a very quick conditional statement. I'm going to say if if nav item, doesn't matter which one I did first, is not equal to whatever the current nav is. So here I'm saying, hey, as long as the item that I'm rolling off of isn't the most recently clicked dot, then it's okay to do this, which is remove the tint. Alright, So we'll do this now. If I click on this and make it orange, when I roll off of it, you'll see that it doesn't go back to blue. All of these other guys, when I roll off of this one, it says, hey, you know what? This isn't the current nav item. This isn't the one that was clicked. So your nav out function is going to work just fine. If I click on this one, you'll see it turns orange also, and this one turns orange, and this one turns orange. Also, when we roll over these, they all turn back to blue. So we're not exactly there yet. Let's go close this, and let's deal with the first issue of, well actually, let's figure out what that first issue is. If I select this item and it turns orange and I roll off of it, it's cool. But if I roll over it, notice it turns back to blue, and when I roll off, it's no longer orange. So that's a little bit wonky. So what I want to do is make sure that once an object or nav item has been turned orange, that when I roll over again, it's going to stay orange. It's not going to turn to blue. So I'm going to do the same kind of check on the nav over. I'm going to say, hey, as long as the item that I'm rolling over isn't the most recently clicked nav item, then it's okay to call this tween. So that problem solved. I roll over this, I click on it, and you'll notice the next time I roll over that it is not turning light blue or dark blue or anything. It's staying clicked. It is sticky. The next problem is this, is that once I select another item, this one here stays orange. So every time I click on a new nav item, I want to make sure the previously clicked item gets turned back to normal. Alright, so to do that, we need to look what's happening inside of the nav click function. Alright, we're telling the clicked item to turn itself orange, and we're also telling Flash to remember, okay, the current nav item is the one that I just clicked on. Well, here we need we need to also tell Flash, you know what? We're going to tell the previously clicked item to remove its tween. So I'm just going to copy paste something here. All right. And we're going to do this. So before I set up what the current nav is, I'm going to tell the existing current nav item that it's going to remove its tint. Now the first time I run this, we're going to get some errors, okay? I'm going to click, and you're going to see this blah, 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 can't access a property of a or method of a null object or reference. This is Flash's way of telling us that it has no idea what we're talking about, and it does it in a very cryptic sort of manner. Well, let me tell you what it's talking about. It's talking about this. The first time I click and I say tell current nav.mc to remove its tint, Flash is saying, I have no idea what the heck you're talking about. What is current nav? Being that nothing has been clicked yet, current nav doesn't have any value. We're just saying here that it is going to be a movie clip, but right now the actual value is null. So before I can tell current nav to remove its tint, I need to check to see if current nav even exists. So I'm going to say if current nav not equal to null, that means that current nav has a value and that it's been clicked before, then we will be able to remove its tint. Alright, let's just do a little auto format job on this. So here, the first time I click on anything, current nav means nothing. So there's going to be no previous nav item to tint. So we're just going to tween the one that we clicked on and tell Flash, hey, remember now that the current nav is the one that I just clicked. The next time I click on something else, this means, all right, the previously named, stored, the previous current nav will now get its tint removed. So this is it, folks. I click on this guy, now current nav is nav2. I click on this guy, current nav right now is the second one. So that's the one that gets its tint removed, and now this is the new current nav. I click on number 1, and then number 4 gets nuked, and number 1 becomes the new present current nav. When I roll over it, it doesn't change, because it won't. When I roll off, it doesn't change either, because in the nav over and nav out functions, I'm checking to see whether or not the movie clip that I'm rolling over is current nav. These guys, they're not current nav, so they will change color all we want. Once I change or click on this guy, now I have a new current nav and the old current nav is taken care of. So there we have it in a 15-minute nutshell. I'm going to offer these files for you guys to download at snorkel.tv very shortly, and just check it out and play with it. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps it up, but if you have the time to stick around for another minute or two, I want to show you how I can make this whole navigation just look a little better. I suckered you into watching this tutorial by showing you this really cool version, my finished file here, where you'll see that the buttons have this nice little glare up top. They have a little bit of shading going on, a little bit of that very light glare on the glass sort of look. I'm just going to show you how to take our very plain looking buttons and make them into these sort of 3D shiny jobbies. Alright, this is just bonus material for the diehards out there. I'm going to go into my file and let's just go to the button symbol, and the button symbol contains the dot, remember, and that stroke on the outside. And I'm going to add one more layer here, and I'm going to call this my gradient layer. And I'm going to take a symbol out called gradient. And now this is just a movie clip that has a circle in there with a very slight light gray to dark gray gradient. And I'm just going to place it over that clip just a little bit. And I'm going to set the blend mode to hard light. Okay? And now let's zoom the crap in on this. Not that far. And you'll see now the blend mode really just gives some nice shading to that symbol. If I pull it down a little bit by hitting my down arrow key, maybe over to the right just a touch, we get that very slight crescent-y sort of look up there. Okay? If I go back to scene 1 now, you'll see all those buttons miraculously have some nice cool depth and lighting going on just by adding one little gradient. For that glare that goes across, we'll go back into the button symbol and we'll add a new layer called glare. And here I have just a very simple half circle shape that you can hardly even see at all because it's filled with like 10% white, and that's about it. So I'm just going to position that right there. And now my buttons just look generally worlds cooler. They were so flat before, and that look is fine. But I think this is pretty cool. I just added two little symbols, clicked on a blend mode, and we all of a sudden have all this depth and shininess on our buttons. Alright? So that's it, guys. Thanks for sticking out for the long haul. I'll see you soon. Keep chatting over on my Facebook page. And hey, if you got Twitter and you like this at all, fire a little note up there, alright? Appreciate all the love. See you soon.